Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with Tessa. How are you doing today, Tessa?
I'm doing well. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing great.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
So the first question I want to ask you is, can you tell us a little bit about what you do as the executive director of EforAll?
Yeah, absolutely. As the executive director of EforAll, I help ensure that we are running our programs to help new and growing entrepreneurs start and grow their businesses. And we serve the whole Pioneer Valley, and we offer a class a couple of times a year. It's a free program, and we match entrepreneurs with education, mentorship, and access to professional networks. My job as the executive director is really about leading my team. I have an awesome team of 3 women who help me do all of the things. And my job is really making sure that we have the volunteers and the funders that we need in order to run our programs. So I do a lot of fundraising and development and a lot of relationship building and volunteer management.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to how you got to where you are today?
Yes, this was not what I thought I would be doing at all. I went to college and graduated, and I came back home to Western Mass, and I started working at City Hall in Holyoke. I was working for the mayor at the time, and I was running his schedule. I was helping with communications. And after a few years, there was a position open in the Office of Planning and Economic Development. And I took that job. And then I started working with businesses in the city. And that was where I started grant writing. And I met a lot of really awesome people who wanted to start a business, but they didn't really know what to do. They didn't have a plan. And there were resources available, but it was very hard to navigate what those resources were, especially if you were a new entrepreneur who just had an idea and a passion, but didn't really know what to do to get that idea off the ground. And in 2015, the city got a grant to start an entrepreneurship program. At the time, it was housed out of the Holyoke Chamber of Commerce. And I saw a lot of potential with this program that was starting. It was called Spark at the time. And we were aiming to help folks that were not typically represented in economic development. And so I left the city and started working for the chamber and started running this Spark program. And it was less about, I've never been a business owner myself, but it was more about knowing which resources were out there and how to connect people with those resources. And so we operated as Spark for a couple of years, and then I learned about this statewide organization called EforAll, Entrepreneurship for All, and they didn't have any sites in Western Massachusetts. So I stalked them out and convinced them that there was a lot of great entrepreneurs in the Pioneer Valley in Western Mass. And we launched EforAll site in 2018. So I've been with the organization since then, and we've been able to help a lot of really amazing people.
Starting from your career working with the mayor, so what has been some experience that you learned throughout all your careers that you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I think I've learned a lot about building relationships with people and really trying to, like I said, I consider myself a connector. And when I meet people and I hear what they're struggling with, I automatically just start thinking about, oh, they should talk to this person or they should talk to so-and-so. And I really learned the power of networking. And networking can be really intimidating, but it's a really important part of not only being an entrepreneur, but just being successful in life. And so I feel like I've worked really hard to build a lot of relationships with people from all different backgrounds and people who want to help our entrepreneurs. And, along the way, I've learned a lot about fundraising that I would have never anticipated. I did not think I would end up in the development world, but it's pushed me out of my comfort zone, and it really helps me. I love telling the story of EforAll and who we help. And so when you can tell that story to someone who could be a potential volunteer or a potential funder, I love being able to tell that story because I know that the work we're doing is really changing lives.
So you talked about network and how it can be intimidating sometimes. What are some ways that somebody can get over their fear of network?
Yes, I've actually given a couple of presentations on this to groups of people because I definitely take for granted that it comes pretty naturally to me as an extrovert. But I think there's some basics that everyone can really lean into as a networker. You should always be ready to introduce yourself to someone that you may not be anticipating your meeting. So making sure you have, it's little things like making sure you have your business cards. Are you ready to go on LinkedIn? So when you meet someone, you're connecting with them and you're maintaining that relationship and you're starting that relationship. I walk into a networking event and we work with 250 volunteers a year. So when I walk into a networking event, I'm looking for potential volunteers for my program. So I go in with a goal. I'm very goal oriented and I say, I'm going to meet 5 people today. And it's hard sometimes because it's easy to just like hang out with the people that you know. But it's really important to find people whose body language is inviting a conversation in and really seeing what they're looking for. When I was in college, I was in a sorority, and sorority recruitment is essentially networking. You meet like hundreds of young women, and you got to get to know them, and they get to know you. And we always talked about finding a need and filling a need. So when I meet someone, are they looking for opportunities to grow their own network? Are they new to the area and they need a community? Whatever they're looking for, whatever they need, I know that EforAll can fulfill that need. Or so just listening. It's really important to listen when you're meeting new people so that you can really get to know them and see how you can help support them. And then the thing with networking is always about follow-up. So if I go and I get 5 business cards, I'm sending them an email the next day. It was really nice to meet you. I'd love to connect more. Let's find a time to chat. But the follow through is really important. And just being authentic. You just got to be yourself. So it's hard, but it doesn't hurt to bring a buddy. I always tell my entrepreneurs, if you're shy, bring a wingman. And you guys do it together and you force each other to step out of your comfort zone.
If you were to go back and tell your 20-year-old self anything, what is that one thing that you would tell yourself?
Oh, I think I'm just learning this now, but you can't control what other people do. The only thing you can do is control how you respond. And at the end of the day, you're not for everyone, and that's okay. But what's really important is that like you just stay true to who you are as a person. And it doesn't really matter what other people think about you because at the end of the day, like you are the one who has to answer to yourself. So there's always going to be things in your life that you can't control. The only thing that you can control is how you respond to it.
So was there like a certain time in your life where you try to make everybody happy or try to?
All the time. I'm actually working on that a lot. In addition to being the executive director of EforAll, I'm also the president of the Holyoke City Council. And being on the city council, this is my 2nd term, my 3rd year on the council. And if anyone is a people pleaser, I recommend running for office because you will immediately learn that you cannot please everyone no matter what. And that's something I still work on to this day. I hate feeling like I'm letting people down. I hate feeling like I'm disappointing someone or I don't have the answer or a solution to their problem. But communication is so important. And as long as I can know that I'm communicating to my constituents or my volunteers or my entrepreneurs, and if I tell them sometimes it's, listen, I don't have the answer you're looking for. There's no real good solution to this, but I hear you. I will continue to try. Let me try to connect you with someone else who might be able to help you. And if I know why I'm making a decision that I'm making, at the end of the day, that's as long as I believe in what I'm doing and what I'm doing is right. I think I have people who vote for me that don't necessarily always agree with me. And that's okay. They shouldn't. If everyone agrees with me all of the time, then I'm not doing something right. But it's hard. You have to get thick skin for that and really stick to your own values.
So how did you get onto the city council?
Oof, that's a great question. In college, I interned for a mayor in Holyoke, and I just fell in love with local government. I really felt, wow, like you can make an impact on a local level. You don't need to go to Boston and or go to some big city to change the world. And I've always been so fiercely passionate about Holyoke. And I think working in at City Hall gave me this unique perspective that I always felt like other elected officials, they don't really know what happens on the day to day at City Hall. And you're making these decisions and it's impacting the day to day, but you don't, if you've never lived that life, then you don't really know what a city employee is dealing with on the day to day. It got to this point where I was like, I gotta stop saying, oh, they should do this or someone should do this. Like it got to a point where I was like, all right, I think I can't keep saying how things should be done without actually taking the step myself to make that leap and run. But there's a statistic, I'm not exactly, I might be a little off, but women, especially in government, need to be told at least 5 or 6 times that they should run for office before they actually decide that they should run for office. And I had a lot of people suggesting it, and it just got to this point where I thought, all right, what do I have to lose? Like, I'll do it. But that was such an incredible journey that taught me a lot about myself, and it really forced me to step out of my comfort zone and get uncomfortable. And I got elected my first time running, but it was a lot of work. I door knocked every single day that it didn't rain. The rain was the only thing that stopped me. And sometimes I'd be so happy that it was raining. I'm like, I just need one day off. But I would go after work, and my goal was 50 doors a day. And on the weekends, it was even more. And I started in May, and the election was in November. And I knocked on over 2,000 doors, and I still came in 5th out of 6. And the second time I ran, I continued to door knock, even though I maybe didn't need to do as much because I had some name recognition, but I didn't want to take anything for granted. So I door knocked again. And that time I won the most votes out of a lot of people who have been on the council for a while before me. So for anyone that's thinking of running for office, you have to knock on doors. That's like the only way to win.
Was knocking on doors like did it get repetitive, or were you like, I would just want to win so bad that I don't even care?
In the beginning, in like when I started in May, I would be in my car, and sometimes I'd have a buddy go with me. My dad went with me like every Saturday, but like the days where I had to go by myself, I would be in my car freaking out, like pumping myself up. Okay, I can do this. I can do this. Just do a few doors. Just keep going. By the time I got to, I would say like July, I was like, you know what? We just got to do this. Like, it's okay. If I meet someone who like truly doesn't like me and they yell at me and they're rude, I can't take this personally. It's fine. But I learned that most people really just appreciated that someone was knocking on their door to listen to them, especially in the neighborhoods where politicians often overlooked trying to secure their vote. So it was intimidating at first. And then, I don't know, it just got to this point where I was like, I just got to do it. I can't even think about it anymore. I'm just going. But sometimes you get done with that and you'd just be like emotionally drained because you never knew who was going to answer the door. You really didn't know. But people would surprise you. Someone who would answer the door, and I might assume that they might not want to vote for me. By the end of it, we found something in common. And we found, I think, like I was saying, like, I know there's a lot of the range of people that vote for me is so different, like different political backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds. But I lead transparently. And I tell people, if I don't have an answer for you, I'll try to get an answer for you. But if I don't, rather than dodging the question or not being straightforward.
What was it like knocking on those 2,000 doors just to come in fifth place? Like, how are you able to go and try to run first again, but win the next time?
I know. I literally, I was, after I saw the election results the first time, I was like, man, I'm glad I door knocked, right? And that's what I tell people all the time. I thought I had name recognition. Always been very involved in the community, volunteering. A lot of people know our program, but the average voter just really doesn't. And the average voter is busy and they have a lot of more important things they have to deal with. So you can't rely on assuming that someone knows you're running. So every time that I was door knocking, it was just like, all right, that's one more person. And luckily, I had a ton of great volunteers who sent postcards to their friends and family. We did phone banking in my apartment, my tiny apartment. Everyone was spread out. And I really couldn't have done it without a lot of volunteers who helped. But it was like intimidating the second time around. I'm like, I can't take for granted that anyone's even paying attention to me now. So why wouldn't I keep door knocking? And I think people were surprised too that an incumbent, someone who's already been elected, was like taking the time to door knock, even though I might not have needed to. But it was really validating to see. I was shocked when the numbers started coming in and I started seeing one of my volunteers is, I think you might have the most votes of everyone. And I was like, me? Why? What? I think nowadays, like local government, people just want someone that can try to bring people together. And that's what I've been trying to do now. In my second term, I'm the president of the council. And this has been the hardest thing I've ever done because there's 12 other individuals on the council and 12 very different personalities and priorities and backgrounds, life stories. And so what I try to do every day is to bring as many people to the middle as I can. And that's why I love local government, because you can do that. I'm going to see these people at Stop and Shop, right? We're going to run into each other at the gym. So we have to, even if we don't agree on much, we do still have to get along. And the thing that we do agree on is that we love Holyoke or whatever community it is. So yeah, it is easily one of the most challenging things I've ever done.
But what has been your favorite experience so far beyond the counseling?
I think it might sound cliche, but I really do value being able to help someone with whatever their problem is. And like the problems that people come to me with, they impact their quality of life, right? It could be their trash not getting picked up, or it could be a tree that's like dying on the road and they're concerned about it. It can be bigger things, right? People's taxes and financial concerns. But the stuff that I love is just being able to, okay, I was able to get that stop sign put in. It's pretty cool. It's these little things that have a ripple effect. And when I was little, I was in elementary school. I must have been in like third or fourth grade. This guy, Mark, was campaigning. He was knocking on doors. And he knocked on our door, and I answered the door. And he told me he was running for office, and he asked if my parents were home. And I was like, you don't need to talk to my parents. You can talk to me. I got concerns. What's up? And he listened. And he actually helped me with a lot of things. And I was young. And I really credit him for like sparking that inside of me to see that I can call this politician. I don't even know what that is, right? I'm in like fourth grade. But the traffic light isn't working, and now I can't cross the street, and I can't get my friendly's ice cream cone. I legit had friendlies when I was growing up. And he fixed it, and like that was huge for me. And if I can do that for other people, if I can give people faith that their local government is listening, I can't give anyone faith about national politics or even state government. That's not my thing. But like locally, if I can get people to feel empowered enough to be engaged in local government, I think that's huge.
going back to EforAll,
Yeah.
when did you, as the director, when did you realize, wow, I can really help people with their businesses?
Oh my gosh. Right from the beginning, like you just, with EforAll, the evolution of someone's own personal growth, it's great seeing their business growth. But when I see them grow as individuals and I see their confidence just totally transform, it's a 12-week program. It's not a really long program. And like you just see how they change. And even their like friends and family will be like, I've had multiple friends and family members of my entrepreneurs be like, you turned my partner into an extrovert. I don't know how you did it, but like they are so much more confident. That's the best for me because I see the greatness in all of my entrepreneurs, but when they come to us, they don't see it yet usually. And I mean, I think that's the best is when someone calls me and says, I'm leaving my full-time job. I have enough customers. I can do this full-time now. I'm taking the leap. And I panic with them a little bit. Have we talked to your mentors? Are we sure that you can do this? But once they make that step, it's like we're not just like changing their lives or changing their lives for their family members. It's really about creating economic opportunity for generations. And I think that's the most powerful thing about entrepreneurship is that it's a pathway to economic self-sufficiency for a lot of people that don't get that opportunity. We work with a lot of people who have been formerly incarcerated, and it's hard to get hired when you have a record. This entrepreneurship is like they use those entrepreneurial skills that might have gotten them in trouble in the past, and now they've translated it into a actual like thriving business that is they're able to do more for themselves and their family. Like that for me is the best part.
Has there been like one particular story of you really helping somebody that's wow, like they really changed like completely?
I always think of Jessica Roski. Always. She's the owner of Roski Rides. She came to us. She's one of my COVID children. She started in January 2020 in person, and they graduated in March of 2020 online. And when Jessica came to us, she didn't really know who her customer was. She had this great product. She had this passion for what she did. And we kept trying to get her to hone in on the people who were going to pay her for what she was doing. And I think there was this aha moment. And it wasn't like it's not like at the end of the 3 months of my class, they all of a sudden have it figured out. And I think that's also like a part of entrepreneurship that is, it's a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. And so it wasn't until months later, but then once that light bulb went off, I feel like she was really able to see that path for herself and just also seeing her confidence. And we always joke about this, but like she couldn't send an email attachment or make an invoice. Her computer skills weren't great. And she really worked hard. Like I always say, my entrepreneurs are rock stars and they work really hard. And I just put them in front of opportunities and it's up to them to take advantage of the opportunity. And Jessica just took advantage of every single thing that was put in front of her. And now she has, I don't know, like 6, 8, 9 vehicles. She has a whole fleet of vehicles. She has 8 employees. She just got a $1 million contract with the city of Springfield. She got her business registered as a minority-owned enterprise. So if you're coachable and if you're willing to put in the work, like you will be successful. It's not linear. It's not a straight line. And I think sometimes that's the hardest part is sometimes I won't hear from someone for a while and I'm like, oh no, did they give up? And then they pop up out of nowhere and they're like, no, I've been hustling. Here's what I'm doing. Yeah, it's really cool to see the evolution of someone like Jessica who's just crushing it.
That must make you feel great being able to help somebody.
I'm just a small little part of her story and I'm so proud to be a part of it. But yeah, she's got the right attitude and those are the types of people we're trying to get into our program because that saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. That is the story of my life. And so it really does come down to the individual and their own passion. And that's why I love working with entrepreneurs because you can't teach that. It's like something that's like inside of you. when I see it, I'm like, yes, I need to just elevate them and make them be even greater.
In my book, Realistic CEO Tony, he talks about the LBW,
Yeah.
the long only born work. So
Yeah.
can you tell us about your journey in the LBW that you had to do?
Yeah, for sure. Even just transitioning from Spark to EforAll, that was a lot of work because we had been a program of the Holyoke Chamber, and the chamber was wonderful. They didn't exist to run an entrepreneurship program. So there was this point in time where I realized if we're going to be sustainable and if this is going to stick around beyond me, then we do need to make this transition to this nonprofit EforAll that is growing, and they have been growing throughout the state. And so that required me to hold a ton of meetings with a ton of stakeholders to really be like, this is why I think this is a good idea and why we should transition to become an EforAll site. And it was intimidating because a lot of people weren't ready for that transition. And so I had to just really meet with people, gain their trust, get them to understand big picture. This is what's best for the Pioneer Valley, not just even Holyoke, just like for all of our region. And that was hard. There was this moment where I was, oh God, I hope I'm making the right decision because I have been telling everyone that EforAll is what we need. And once we had our first class and our first events, I was like, okay, thank God. I did make the right decision here. But like even as it relates to city council, I do so much long, lonely, boring work. I didn't know a lot about parliamentary procedure before I was on the council. And that is something that you really have to teach yourself. There's not a ton of resources out there. So I bought myself a book before I became president. I watched all these meetings from like years before, and I watched the way that the past presidents ran the meetings. And I would just, even my first 2 months as president, that's what I was doing. I was taking notes. I was rewatching these old meetings. And for me, it was also helpful because I am the first female city council president in Holyoke's history. And and I'm young and I'm only in my second term. Usually you kind of wait a little longer to be the president. So I ruffled a lot of feathers in the beginning. I was not unanimously elected city council president. It was split 7-6. So I knew I had to like somehow convince those 6 people who didn't vote for me that I was going to take this job seriously. Whether or not they agreed with my decisions, I was going to respect this position and really take it seriously. And that meant doing a lot of homework, probably more than my predecessors needed to, because they were on the council for like decades before they became the president. So a little baptism by fire there. I'm lucky to have a lot of people who want to see me succeed. There's more people out there that want to see me succeed than there are who want to see me fail. And don't get it twisted. There are people out there who would love to see me fail. And that's okay. But I have to keep just reminding myself that I do deserve to be here and that I am qualified, even if I'm not a traditional president of the city council.
Thank you. Yeah, I just got one more question.
Yeah.
So what's one fun fact about yourself that nobody really knows?
Let's see. Usually my fun facts are things that I like brag about and people do end up knowing. But one time I babysat for Joe Biden's grandkids in college, which was pretty cool. I had to get a security background check, like by the CIA. I had to give them my social security number. I went to the University of Delaware, and one of my sorority sisters like worked for Joe's son, Beau Biden, at the time, and he needed a last minute babysitter. And I loved babysitting. That was my job. I hustled hard in college, and I babysat like everyone. And CIA did a background check on me, and that was cool. And then the other one that I always like to share is a few years ago, no, gosh, maybe 5 years ago now, I went skydiving, and it was so awesome, and I highly recommend it. just once, especially if you're someone who has anxiety like me. It really helps the anxiety. It's cool.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Awesome questions. This was great.
Sorry, I'm sorry.